Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today, for match day, I'm delighted to be joined by Lawrence Connolly, sporting a miraculously similar top to the one behind me, and Laura Bradburn, who is dialing in. It's a big game today, Ross County against Celtic, and we are a Celtic state of mind, not a Celtic stale of mind. So welcome all our viewers from all over the world, and get involved in the chat. We'll obviously be running through today's lineup. There was talk all week about whether or not Celtic and Ange Postecoglou would make any changes. Let's bring the lineup up. That'll be the first thing that we do, and we'll have a wee look at some of the changes to see if you agree with them. Wait till I share the tab with you just in a moment. Here we go, and it is just a static image. Today we have Joe Hart in goals, Juranovic at right back with Taylor at left back, and there's a central defensive pairing of Maurice Gents and Cameron Carter-Vickers. We'll be talking all about that, I'm sure. In the midfield, we have a trio of McGregor, O'Reilly and Turnbull. Hatate drops out through injury. We did say during the game last week that he seemed to get a knock. It's no surprise after the treatment that he received. And up top, we've got Jota, Maeda, Kyogo. Some were calling for Giakoumakis, who is on the bench alongside Siegrist, Starfelt, Abada, Moy, McCarthy, Bernabe, Forrest and Ralston. I'll come to you first, Lawrence Connolly. Any surprises in that lineup?
Yeah, if Welsh isn't making the bench, we'll assume he's injured, or so it'll be nice to see what Jens gives us. Hatate out, yeah, it did look as if he picked up a knock. I'd have probably started with Giakoumakis up front. I just thought maybe it's a game for him. I thought he leads the line a bit better when it's more physical. I think we'll be up against a physical Ross County. Not too sure how much protection the rest will give us. They didn't give really any in the last game. So, yeah, not too much of a surprise. Maybe the only thing I'd have changed is Giakoumakis for Kyogo.
I've heard a few people saying that leading up to today's game. Kenny Wilson reckons that we'll find out a lot about Gents today. It's a big game to make your competitive debut. Laura, what about yourself looking at that team? I think there is a suggestion that Welsh may be ill, and that's why he's not made it, because he's not on the bench. So it's not as though he's been dropped, because he certainly didn't do anything to be dropped, did he?
No, I think that's like one of the major disappointments for me today. Is as much as I'm looking forward to seeing Moritz Gents and what he can offer us, and I agree with the commenter that we'll probably have seen a lot of what we think of him by the end of the 90 minutes. It's really a gut-wrenching blow for Stephen Welsh, because I think even he would agree after the performance last week that, you know, this was his chance to get a good run in the team. Obviously, it's come at the misfortune of other people, but in this case, he's been the unfortunate one, and it's a shame because he's basically in a situation where it's not even as if he's had the shirt wrestled off him or anything like that. It's been out of his control. So disappointed for him, but equally as excited to see the new signing and see what kind of a partnership he makes with CCV at the back. I have to say, as far as the rest of the team goes, excited for Turnbull, but I do agree with Lawrence that I would have gone with Gigi up front instead of Kyogo after last week's performance, but I'm sure we'll get into that anyway.
Yeah, definitely. If we're looking at the defence, first of all, and there's plenty of comments coming in around the inclusion of Gents in the first 11. Greg, is Welsh about to leave on loan? Let's hope that's not the case. If it was to happen, you would think Celtic might even have another centre-half lined up. I've been saying for weeks that the Chris Jullien situation, Lawrence, seems to have affected the business that we're going to do. I mean, I said this last year. We brought in Carter-Vickers on the last day of the window on a loan. Turned out tremendous bit of business, by the way. But we brought him in on a loan because there was that whole issue around when Jullien would come back. We thought it would be September. It didn't happen. It came later on. He ended up making one appearance last season. And again, you can't have a £7 million player, you know, presumably on decent wages in the squad and bring in another centre-half over and above Jens, who again has come in on loan. So I'm pretty sure there will be a few more departures in this particular window, but one of them surely won't be Stephen Welsh. I wouldn't have thought, Lawrence.
Not unless we get rid of Jullien and bring in cover. You know, I think Welsh is definitely one for the future. How many minutes he's going to get with Celtic throughout the season, I don't know. I thought he showed up really well first game of the season. Depends what Celtic's development plan is for him, but not without another player in, and without getting Chris Julian out.
Were we late today? You and boys picking me up? We probably were a few seconds. Sorry, big man. And yeah, if we were, it's probably because I'm making the coffee, because nobody else in the studio seems capable of doing that. Although, Laura, some might say that I've had plenty of practice and I'm pretty good at making a cup of tea. So we are looking at the lineup. But let's also look at the positive here. It's going to be great, Laura, to see big gents. I mean, a couple of weeks back, Peter Grant was talking about him. He was one of the boys that he worked with at Fulham, as was Matt O'Reilly. Almost called him Tam O'Reilly there. Maybe I'm yearning for a return of the big man.
Is that not where you go for a pint? No.
the Tam O'Reillys, it could well be. Aye. That might be the next venture, the new bar. Yeah, we'll do the games from a pub at Tam O'Reilly's. So we're going to be seeing Morent's gents. What's going on here? What's in that cup, Lawrence? Are you sure it's coffee? Moritz gents, we're going to be seeing him for real. And the big thing I would say here is great to have Starfelt back on the bench, because obviously the partnership him and Carter Vickers had last year was the best in the country. But he was playing slightly out of position. He is not natural on the left-hand side. So every time the ball was coming to him, you seen him adjusting his position, his body shape to get the ball back on his right. It sometimes slowed things down a wee bit. What we've got in gents is somebody who can play there naturally. So I'm really looking forward to that, Laura.
Yeah, I think all these wee details are things that you have to consider, because we've got a manager who's considering them. He's definitely going to be looking at preferred feet of defenders for distribution of the ball out from the back, and that's great, because that's what he's there to do. Jens is I was talking to Jim on the bulletin yesterday, and Jens hopefully brings a bit more of that stature to the back of the line that we were looking for as well, that maybe Starfelt and Carter Vickers don't have. I mean, I'm saying this, I don't actually know what height he is, but I just know in comparison to me he's tall, but then most people are. So, but it's just encouraging, again, like we've said before, to have those choices. Like you say, Starfelt being on the bench is encouraging, because he's more than capable at the back to come on for a Carter Vickers or a Jens if we need to change things around. And the options in general on the bench, I would say, don't massively drop the standard of the team that's on the pitch, and that's the least you're looking for from the choices you've got on the bench. But it's just another indication as well of, bit by bit, Ange's been adding to the squad, and as much as doing that, getting rid of some of the players who maybe were never going to make it at Celtic, and really cleaning up the squad and making sure that everybody who's in that 16 on the match day or 25 in a season is there to do a job, and do a capable job at that.
I'm going to ask you then, Laura, I might put you on the spot. We're talking about those who are not going to contribute this season. Are there any of those players in the lineup today? And I mean the starting lineup, including the subs also. So are there any of those players, do you think, in today's team?
I think in terms of not making a contribution, it depends what you mean by contribution. Obviously, there are a number of them that I can see there. Siegrist, McCarthy, Forrest spring to mind as ones who probably won't make many appearances. Having said that, I don't think the number of appearances necessarily speaks for the contribution you can make, because we all know the difference you can make closing out a game or coming on and changing a game if you're struggling. But for me, of the 11 on the pitch and the ones on the bench there, I think you'll probably see less from McCarthy and less from Forrest, but the rest I see making a decent contribution in terms of game time throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, Greg comes back in to say Julien McCarthy a jetty time to go. Do you think, there was a bit of talk obviously during the week that there's some interest in James McCarthy? Talking of contribution, he didn't make a massive contribution last season. I think he was an important cog in the wheel, particularly when he came in. The fact that we needed that bit of experience, didn't we? But we've brought in Moy, who's also sitting on the bench. We've got... we've got strength and depth in the fact that Ideguchi, when he comes back from injury, is also going to be in there. He's going to be part of that group of players fighting for a first-team berth. And they're underneath the likes of Turnbull, who's stepped in today for Rio Hatate. So I wasn't surprised that there has been murmurings about James McCarthy leaving, Lawrence, but it is a player that I've probably championed and supported, but I'm not sure where he fits in. What's your thoughts on James McCarthy this season?
I'm kind of going to defer to Yared's knowledge of Ange Postecoglou. Because he said, I know we're used to his teams being 4-3-3, but Jared said he played a season of 4-2-2-2, double pivot, and won the league with it. So maybe we'll see a wee bit more of him, and we might see that formation in the Champions League. Who knows? I think McCarthy's a great player. He's got a lot of experience. I think he definitely adds to the squad. Depends about, if he's going to go somewhere, who are we going to replace him with? I don't think he would move out without a replacement. I think he could be really handy in the Champions League. Handy to close out games as well. So, time will tell, The transfer window's still open, but I can't see him get out without being replaced.
Right. Well, interesting. Because again, I've spoken about players, Lawrence, that might be holding up moves for players coming in. I think a Jetty falls into that category. There's no way he can bring in a striker whilst he's still at the club. Julien's probably doing that in the defence. Is McCarthy that player that's a stumbling block in midfield? Who knows? Michael McDonald, today's the day we get a 30-yard screamer from JJ. Are you surprised that he starts? I mean, we're talking horses for courses. Laura and Lawrence mentioned earlier on he might have played the big man Giakoumakis just to noise them up and shake them up a bit up top. A few people said similar about Tony Ralston, who obviously performed particularly well at this venue last season with one of the most memorable moments of the season with his 117th minute winner up there. Are you surprised JJ's in there, or is it really just a case of he's got the jersey once again, and until he's injured or suspended, Ralston will need to sit on the bench?
I mean, I understand the debate from some sections of the support because, Anthony Ralston has become somewhat of a fan favourite, especially over the last year or so. So I can understand where that's coming from, but ultimately I think we're just fortunate that we've got luxury in terms of the choice we've got at right back, because I think either of these guys are capable, and so in that case, unless there's a real reason to drop one of them, then I wouldn't necessarily drop them until it's absolutely necessary through injury or rest or something like that. So I think I can see JJ having a run in the team for as long as he's fit and able to have one. And then when Ralston comes in, I can see it being the same way the other way around. So again, it's just the fact we've got two right backs who some people are clamouring for one to start and some people are clamouring for the other, I think is a good thing, because it just shows that we've got two players of quality in that position. I know Jim yesterday on the show said he would rather see Ralston at right back. I think, hopefully not to misquote him, I think he feels that Ralston's obviously got a little bit better defensive pedigree than Juranovic, but at the same time, without trying to disrespect the opposition, you would hope that we'll have most of the ball and most of the attacking pressure in the game, and so I think Juranovic is more suited to that game for us than Ralston. But again, I mean, that's picking hairs, really. It's much of a muchness. I would have been happy to see either of them in the starting lineup.
As you say, it's a good dilemma to have. I'm keen to bring in some of the comments. Magnet67, I've got a week's worth of Acsom to catch up on. Well, I hope you enjoy it, because as Laura said, the return of the one, the only Jim Orr happened yesterday. Laura was at the helm, Jim Orr came back, and it was great to see him, Laura, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny because you sit before the shows trying to think of, especially at the end of the week in the lead up to the show, to the match day, trying to think, how can I talk about things that are different from what other people have talked about? How can we get a different angle on the same story? And having somebody like Jim sitting opposite you makes that easy, because he can talk Celtic with the best of them, and filling an hour is absolutely no bother. So if you've missed it, then I highly recommend you go back and watch it.
I think we got a lot of feedback around Jim's reappearance. People reckon because you take a few weeks off that there's been a spat and he's left the building. Jim was on a world tour of Bend It Like Bertie, and there's going to be a few other dates coming up as well. So if you missed that second time round, you might catch it third time lucky. Check him out. I think his Twitter handle is Bend It Like Bratback, Jim Orr, and he will be taking that on the road as well. Magnet67 comes back in to tell Peter Robb, Welsh is ill, not dropped, chill your beans, mate. I'm just coming late to that argument. I'm sorry, Peter Robb, I don't know what's been said before, but I'm sure we're all happy with the fact that Gents is making his competitive debut. Dr. Nax, I wish I could do a stream party with you all. Well, I don't know if we'd be able to stream that, especially not at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. And on YouTube, it might get pulled But if it's Celtic related, Doctor, then let me know and you might get
You can
involved.
have a party while you're watching it, obviously.
You certainly can, You can do what you like when you're watching it. We won't find out. Scott Howe, Kyogo, first goal. Lawrence, you've already said the big man might have started today. But, I mean, let's be honest, Kyogo has that quality. And on any other day, he might have scored a couple of goals against Aberdeen last week.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a wee bit of rustiness. You could say the same about Giakoumakis. He might have scored a couple.
He looked a wee bit rusty himself. I didn't want to criticise him too much, Lawrence, because obviously you and I got pelters for doing that against Alloa. But he did look a wee bit rusty last week.
Yeah, but I suppose when he first came in...
Sleepless nights.
He took a wee while to get going. But yeah, I just thought he'd have started today. I thought that this match would have suited him more. I expect to see him at some point during it.
Are you talking the rough and tumble of Scottish football, Lawrence? Is that really what you're getting at? The basics of there's a player who can just mix it with the best of them, the dark arts of Scottish football?
I don't think the ref's going to give us too much protection. So who in our team's going to be able to mix it? And I think Giakoumakis falls into that category. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'd definitely started him over Kyogo, but both of them are going to play at some point during the game. So maybe Kyogo for 60 minutes, then Giakoumakis on, and we'll see what it can do. Hopefully we're comfortable by that point. Hopefully we're not leaving it to 128th minute winner, as good as it was that time with Tony, and the relief it was felt. But hopefully it's comfortable by half time. I'm thinking, I know Malky keeps it tight, but hopefully 2-0 by half time and finishing 3 or 4-0.
Laura, you made a fantastic point actually before we came on live. I've kept the team up for the fact that we're only at the defence at the minute. We haven't even got to Greg Taylor. But, last week Celtic had a very funky and spectacular graphic that was a moving graphic. But you made the point that maybe it was a wee bit too spectacular because it was flashing images and all that stuff. So we've reverted back to the static starting lineup. For anyone who's wondering why we're not going 21st century on that one, because it was a good point which I hadn't thought about. I just thought, wow, that looks great, let's keep it on. Paddy Lavery, afternoon all, great night last night meeting Joe Miller and Kevin Sheedy. I did see a few pictures, Paddy. Was Joe out with Bobby Petta, Big John Hartson, etc.? Was that the night you were at? Tell us about it. Let us know. Sounded like a great lineup. Kevin Sheedy was always one of the players I'd have loved to have seen playing for Celtic as well. Him and Ronnie Whelan. Brown Warrior, if you were Welsh, you would have thinking about a loan. See, that's a good point. How do you keep a player like Welsh happy, Laura? Gents comes in today. Let's hope he has a fantastic game. Starfelt's sitting on the bench. How do you keep a player like Welsh happy this season?
I mean, I don't know that I agree with the commenter in that case, because I think we're all talking about a situation where he's out due to illness. I think he would have started the game today if it hadn't been for that because of his performance last week. So perhaps the fact that he's out of the team today is more a lack of fortune than anything. But I don't know. I'm not a professional footballer and I'm not in that mindset or that elite athletic mindset. But I would like to think that most professional footballers, if they want to stay at a club for whatever reason, and I'm assuming Stephen Welsh wants to stay at Celtic, I would have thought that his mindset isn't going towards going on loan, but in fighting for his place and continuing to do so if he's happy to do so. The only time I would think a player might look towards a loan is if it's been made clear to them by the manager that they're not wanted at the club. And I've not heard any rumours or murmurings that that's the case from Ange. So it's a difficult one to work out because obviously we don't know the goings on behind closed doors. But I would think as long as the manager's made it clear to him that he's wanted, then surely his position would be, well, I'll stay and fight for my place. But I can't get inside his head to know that whether that's one way or another. Certainly, as time goes on, I think if he's not get a regular starting place by the end of this season, I think he'll probably be looking at less of a loan, more of a permanent move, because obviously his career can't continue to stall in this way going forward. But it's only time will tell whether he remains a Celtic player going forward.
I always go back to the fact that two clubs have made offers for him, Laura, and Ange have knocked him back, in Toulouse and Udinese. So, I mean, both, I'm sure, would have been tantalising loan moves for a player like Welsh, going out and getting his, earning his spurs elsewhere. But if he's in Ange's plans. And like you say, no one can figure out what's going on in Ange's head. As he said last week when he was asked the question, will people know what to expect this season, Ange? And his answer was classic Ange Postecoglou. Paul Cockwell may not be a Celtic fan, but he comes into Acsom on a regular basis. Some bench you've got, that's half a team on the bench. And we've said this over the last couple of games. We do have a stronger bench than this time last year. Bernabe was brought in, Lawrence, but he's not been able to displace one of your favourites, Greg Taylor. And Taylor started the season off as he finished last week with an excellent display against Aberdeen, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, Ange has been clear to all the players, you need to earn your place in this team. You're not just walking in. And if you're doing well, you're going to stay in the team. I think Greg's a cracking player for us. He's one of the two players, him and Tony Ralston, that Ange singled out early on last season about how well they were doing in adapting to his style. So obviously, Ange likes him. Bernabe's going to give him a bit of competition, but it's not going to be easy for him to get in there. Ange is on record saying he doesn't like changing the defence unless he has to. So I suppose if you're a defender, you come in and you do well, barring illness or injury, you're going to expect to stay in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Patrick comes in, Patrick Hone. Hello from Coventry, guys. Super excited for today's games. I think there's a big fan base in Coventry, isn't there? Celtic fan base, Lawrence. You're pretty familiar with some of the English-based CSCs. There's a big one in Coventry, isn't there? Yep.
I think they leave at something like 3 or 4 in the morning to come up here, which is dedication. Obviously, I don't know if he travels on a bus, but 3 or 4 in the morning to come up.
Well, there'll be the usual dedicated travelling support going up to Dingwall today from all parts of Scotland, Ireland and beyond. Unfortunately, us 3 aren't at the game. Laura, it's a bit of an issue when you get to this point. There was a couple of points last season where we were playing away from home. You're not at the game. You're dying to watch it. You're prepared to pay for it. You've got Celtic TV. You've got Sky Sports. You've got Premier Sports. What's the other one? BT. You've got a season ticket, but you can't watch the game. It's a strange situation to be in, isn't it? And I mean, is it a Scottish football problem? Can more be done? Why is this not in PPV?
I think it's a strange situation for football in general, but especially Scottish football, just because we're in a day and age where a Saturday 3 o'clock blackout is just, draconian in terms of like the way that it's viewed, because with things like social media and the ability for people sitting in the stand to video parts of the match and put it online, you can, or for people to even video their TV and put it online, these companies would be better, instead of trying to monopolise the broadcast rights of the match, put it in a way that anybody who wants to watch it can watch it as long as they can pay for it, no matter where they are in the world, because it's getting to a point now where international viewership is a thing of the past. You can go and watch any programme in any part of the world if you want to, if you've got the right ways to do it on the internet, completely legal ways, obviously I'm talking about. But it's just strange to me that somebody like the commenter in Coventry, while I'm delighted for them that they have the opportunity to do so, Jared in Australia can sit and watch this game today, but us sitting 3 hours down the road from it can't watch it. It's strange to me.
It is, and you were talking there about people actually streaming from their iPhones. I think the Dundee United game was streamed from somebody's iPad the other night, looking at the quality of that, and that was on a mainstream channel. Nomadse, I thought Lawrence didn't like Giakoumakis. Are we still at that? Nomadse, I think Lawrence he's entitled to change his mind if the boy starts playing well, which he did. Lawrence, you gave him a slagging, so did I.
Yeah, that was the Alloa game. We said it, the cracking finish, one-touch finish, but outside of that, I think the ball was bouncing off him. You lost possession, I think it was like 12 times or something. You were like, just control the ball. He had a poor game. It doesn't mean we don't like him. I like every Celtic player. I don't think that should come as news to anyone who knows me. But sometimes Lawrence, some of them have bad games.
Do you know what needs to happen now? You need to admit that we're all still massive fans of Kenny Miller because he used to play for Celtic. That's what we need to do. You're not allowed to change your mind on these things.
See the big thing as well. It's Chris Julian. I've voiced my not concerns but my opinion on the fact that he's a player who's getting paid very good wages for Celtic, and I felt that his post. Some say I'm obsessed with his post on Instagram. I'm not obsessed, but I think it was disrespectful to the club, and by extension, it was disrespectful to every one of us as Celtic supporters. However, if he was in that starting lineup today, I want to see him doing well. I'm not going to boo him. So if you're wearing the hoops, you get my support. Even if you're wearing that third kit, you'll get my support. But Giakoumakis didn't start well, and we've got to call it as we see it at that particular time. If somebody has a bad game, I mean, we're talking about every nuance of Celtic Football Club on a day-by-day basis. He had a couple of stinkers early on. Hey-ho, we forgot them quick enough when he started banging the goals in and ragdolling Rangers in February at Celtic Park. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of the big man, and I think he'll be itching to come on and make an impression. Now, here's a wee bit. Lawrence is sitting there with his harp top on. Behind me, I've got the Shamrock one, with a league winners medal, by the way. Check that out. And I've even played the quota of games to get that. That was a gift from an Acsom supporter and viewer, so thank you very much for that.
Is that a Cinch Scottish Premiership winners medal?
It is. It's one of the sponsors. I know that they get two now, don't they? But that's one of the sponsors ones. So pretty chuffed that that's in here, in the studio, and my wee boy was running about thinking it was just a toy medal, and he had it around his neck earlier on. There you go. And if you want to buy any merch from Acsom, then there is a link underneath this video. So get yourself onto that link if you want to buy one of our trackies. Great quality, as Lawrence will attest, because he's sitting there wearing, I think that's your third bit of merch from us. No, fourth.
Well, fourth or fifth, mate. I've got the original T-shirt way back at the launch of the merch, mate. Still got that. Enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... Yep.
We should do mugs. Although, thanks Tonics for the sponsorship for our event in Leith. That was very good of you. You dropped us some sponsorship. And genuinely, they did. And that, I don't know if it's because I'm drinking out a Tonics mug and I eat far too many of your biscuits as well.
I was going to say, if you two walloped into the caramel wafers and not sent me any?
Well, listen, being a Celtic show, it would be tea cakes.
Oh, aye, true.
This has gone off piste. It's gone off piste. The midfield, Hatate, one of the players I was most impressed by in the pre-season. He was injured, Lawrence, but I mentioned that there was a bit of roughhouse tactics last week against Rio Hatate, and it's no surprise to me that he's missed today's game. But going back to that point about the strength of the bench, you bring in Turnbull, and more than capable.
Top scorer in pre-season. I would have started Turnbull instead of O'Reilly last week, but Hatate, particularly the knee in the back, right in front of the ref, sees it, gives a free kick. There's no attempt to play the ball. He's went in. For me, it's attempted to injure the player, and there's not even a yellow card, never mind a red. Mm-hmm. But we've seen quite a lot of challenges like that against Celtic players in the last few years, and I thought perhaps with one of the refs departing the scene, we might see a wee bit less of it, but no, we'll see what today's game brings.
We shall, and of course McGregor and O'Reilly have impressed throughout the full season for McGregor last year and half a season for O'Reilly. Looks as though they've picked up, like Taylor, just where they left off last year. You have no concerns, have you? You're a massive fan of Turnbull, Laura, so you'll be happy to see him in the starting lineup. But I was disappointed that Hatate's picked up an injury, and I don't think it was dealt with. I mean the tactics, and was he targeted? I'm not sure he was targeted, but some of the tackles were really poor against Hatate last week.
I don't think he was targeted any more or any less than any other Celtic player is in these situations. It's just something that some teams seem to think they have to do to cope with us. And Hatate, being as involved as he was in so much of the play, bore the brunt of it. And I am disappointed for him that he's not playing again today because, like I said previously, I like the risks that he takes when he tries to make passes. I think he creates opportunities for us that other players don't sometimes have the vision or the ability to do. But one player I do think has the vision and the ability to do that is David Turnbull. So I think he's a more than adequate replacement for him. Still to see him return to the heights of the form he was on before his injury last season. But I think it's clear the manager's a big fan of him. Maybe not as much as I am, but still a very big fan. And I think David Turnbull's got to do what we talked about Stephen Welsh doing last week. He's got to take this opportunity now that he's in the starting lineup to make that shirt his own, because the midfield is going to be one of the most competitive areas of the pitch for Celtic in terms of getting a place in that starting lineup. And if you're going to be there, you're going to have to make it worth the manager's while.
Yeah, definitely. We've spoken about the only change we might have made up top with Giakoumakis in for Kyogo. It's not happened. I think we're all happy with Jota and Maeda at this stage. But we are getting asked for our predictions, and Magnet's coming in with the first one, 3-0. I'd be more than happy with that. Lawrence Conley, what's your prediction for today's game?
Mate, you obviously weren't listening earlier. 2-0 by half time, and we're going to run out either 3 or 4-0 winners. I said this earlier, about 10, 15 minutes ago.
Maybe at that point the drink was kicking in my Tonics mug. There's Tonics getting their money's worth out of the sponsorship deal. What about yourself, Laura? I know you don't like making them, but I'm going to ask you for a prediction.
I like saying plenty of things I get proved wrong, but I've got some hang up about predictions. But I'll go, I don't hopefully see us keeping a clean sheet today, so I'm going to go 2-0.
Okay, the last plug, now that I've plugged Tonics and our merch, is that we do have a gig coming up in Dunfermline, the scene of some fantastic Celtic moments over the years. And that gig, you might think, well, where's the Celtic connection there? I do have a video that I'm going to play you at full time that will show you that there is a Celtic connection to this live music event, and you can get 20% off just by firing in that code StateOfMind20 on the link underneath the video. I will explain all later on where the Celtic link is. You will enjoy this one. It looks as though the action started because a few of left the building to watch the game. We're obviously going to go away and find some kind of way. I might just listen to it on the tranny and make notes that way, the old-fashioned, old-school way. We will come back at half-time and discuss the first half. Everybody enjoy the game. Thank you, Lawrence Conley and Laura Bradburn, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.